Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Talking Tuesday edition of Palmetto Sports Daily. Rick Henry here in Columbia, joined by Teagan Brown in Myrtle Beach, Carmine Germain in Greenville, and Kevin Bilodeau in Charleston. All right, we'll start off with the Gamecocks. South Carolina coming off a very tough, heartbreaking loss to Alabama. They were leading by 8 points in the fourth quarter, could not close the deal, and that's been a problem for South Carolina. They're in a stretch of 5 straight games against nationally ranked opponents. They've lost the first 3. Up this week, number 7 Ole Miss, followed by number 3 Texas A&M. Both of those games on the road. They need to win one of them to have a shot at winning 6 games and advancing to a bowl. So can they capture some of that November magic? Under Shane Beamer, South Carolina is 6-0 against nationally ranked teams in November. This year, they were leading in the fourth quarter at both Missouri and LSU. They were in the game with a chance to win. Again, against Alabama, they couldn't close the deal. Here's Shane Beamer on the importance of being able to put together a strong finish in these games.
I think it's something that can be taught. You hope it clicks. I hope it's something that you develop. Every day in practice, we make a big deal about the last period of practice, and it's the fourth quarter, and we got to go finish. We did it even more so today. Every off-season workout in the summertime or in the winter, we're talking about finishing. So it's something that we emphasize all the time, and we've been a good team in the fourth quarter since I've been here as the head coach, and it's maddening that we haven't been better this year. The fact that, if you can sit there, woulda, coulda, shoulda, I get all that.
Okay, now last year the Gamecocks went 5-0 in November with ranked wins over number 10 Texas A&M, number 24 Vanderbilt, and then number 24 Missouri and number 12 Clemson. And folks, they've got to win one of these next 2 games, or the best they can finish is with 4 wins or 5 wins. Very crucial. Carmine, can they do it?
I don't think so, Rick. I think the schedule is just too difficult, and also the Gamecocks play is not good enough. We've seen in their ranked matchups, they haven't really even been close. LSU was close at the beginning, but Oklahoma and Alabama, they just can't finish, like Coach Beamer said, in the fourth quarter. So I don't have much hope for them, unfortunately. And it's kind of weird because Clemson and South Carolina, you can really only pencil in one win, I feel like, on the rest of their schedules. For Clemson, that's Furman, and for South Carolina, that's Coastal Carolina, Kevin.
Yeah, I really thought they were going to get something going on Saturday. The way they played those first 3.5 quarters, I really thought they were going to be able to pull something together. And then they let Alabama sneak back into this one, and Lenore Sellers can't hold on to the ball. It's among the most heartbreaking losses I've seen Carolina have in the last 20 years of watching this program. So I'm curious to see how they try to bounce back going on the road. Maybe being away from Columbia will help a little bit, but I really feel like Lane Kiffin's Ole Miss team is going to be really focused going into this week, and then that A&M team is so good the week after that. I don't see them pulling off either one of these, Teagan.
I don't either. I think that based on what we saw in the fourth quarter there, they just can't seem to get over this hump. There have been moments of hope this season, but overall, when we hit that halfway point and we talked all about, the last few years, Shane Beamer in the second half of the season has really been able to get his team back on track. That just hasn't happened this year, and I don't see it magically happening from here either. So I don't see a win in either of these SEC games, and then honestly against Coastal and Clemson, I don't know what we'll see there either, Carmine.
Yeah, and like you guys said, that was really heartbreaking. I was watching that Alabama game at a Halloween party, and it was just, everybody was glued in. A lot of Clemson fans, some Gamecocks fans, but just a heartbreak there for the Gamecocks with Lenore's fumbling and Alabama coming down. That's too bad. So Clemson's trying to come off the bye week. Similar story, trying to have a successful November, trying to right the ship. And coming off that loss to SMU, they gave up 35 points. The final score was 35-24. Back-to-back home losses for Clemson for the first time under head coach Dabo Swinney since 2008, his first season. And so they're trying to come back after the bye week and hopefully try to heal up, because starting quarterback Cade Klubnik's still dealing with that ankle injury. And this last game was the first time in 35 games that he did not start at quarterback for the Clemson Tigers. Christopher Vezina came in. He looked good. The update from Dabo Swinney today and Talking Tuesday was that Cade practiced yesterday, went through all the rehab, but he's kind of keeping that close to the vest of whether or not Cade is on track to start. He said you'll have to keep tabs on the injury report that comes out through the ACC later this week. But another interesting topic that he addressed was the crazy college football season, in addition to the coaching carousel, because we just got the word that Brian Kelly has been fired from LSU. Of course, James Franklin fired from Penn State. Mike Gundy fired from Oklahoma State. And I'm interested to get your guys' opinions after we hear from Dabo here about trying to build a program and the short leash that college football coaches are under if they can't win the big one.
You got a lot of really, really good football coaches that have won a lot of games, but they're getting fired because they haven't really won championships. And then you got others who people want you fired even though you've won some championships. So it's kind of a crazy world, and it's the world we live in, and you just, it's like a blood sport, similar to the NFL in that regard. I would think so. I mean, again, I'm very fortunate here because I've been the head coach 17 years. Not 2 years, not 4 years. I mean, you've got a long track record, but that doesn't mean. That doesn't mean. They can get rid of me tomorrow. I mean, that's just part of it. You got to win, and you got to, you got to win your fair share, I think. But I do think it's unrealistic if you fire your coach every year because they don't make the playoff. There's 136 teams, I think, or 135 for 12 spots or whatever. I mean, it's hard. There's 17 teams playing for one championship in this league. We've won it 8 out of 10 years. We're not going to win it this year, but we've won it 9 times. We've had a lot of opportunity. But I mean, there's a lot of great coaches that have won a bunch of games that are losing jobs. They're really, really good coaches. Maybe because they haven't won a championship, but how many people have won championships? It's hard. I mean, there's not many coaches that have won championships. There's not many. So if you're going to just fire your coach every year they don't make a championship or be one of the 12 out of 136, you're going to have a lot of turnover. And it's going to be hard to have a program.
Yeah, Dabo takes a lot of pride in the program and the building of that over his 17 full seasons at Clemson. Teagan, what do you think as far as this crazy college football landscape with some very prominent coaches being let go, and Gundy, Franklin, Kelly, others? Do you think the leash has become shorter? Do you think it's fair to let these guys go middle of the season? Or where do you stand on that?
I mean, honestly, I don't really blame the coaches entirely for, this carousel of everybody being fired. I always go back to something Tim Beck said last season. He said it feels like we're not building a program anymore. We're building a team every single year, and it's a different team every single year. So these coaches that are in charge of these teams with a ton of portal guys, they've got to make it mold. And it's not every single year that you're going to get all these magical players that are going to win you a championship. Just because you're getting these portal guys who have so many stars on their resume or so many yards in their stats or whatever, it doesn't equal a championship. So all of these coaches being let go, at this point in the season, I would have liked to have seen them finish out the season. I always, I'm enjoying the memes on Twitter right now about how Lane Kiffin cannot coach 4 college teams at the same time. So I don't know what these programs think they're going to get in terms of a coach that's better than the one they currently have. Maybe they'll get lucky and get somebody that can magically turn them into a championship-winning team. But that's just not how this sport works anymore.
Yeah, that leash is getting shorter and shorter. In the era of the portal and NIL deals, and they always say, Coaches are hired to get fired. And look at LSU. Their two previous coaches, Les Miles, Ed Orgeron, they won national championships, and they kicked them to the curb when things went south. And Brian Kelly didn't make the playoffs in his 4 years, well, I guess almost 4 years since he wasn't able to finish up this year. So, yeah, he had to go. And you're talking about looking for coaches to make that magical turnaround. Well, people this year, they're pointing at Vanderbilt and Indiana, programs that really over, I don't know, you say the past 50, 75 years haven't really done anything. And here we're talking about both of these teams as playoff teams. So if you don't get it done in like 3-4 years, make it to the playoffs, they'll say, hey, here's your check. See you later. Let's go find someone else. Kevin.
Yeah, the funny thing off of what you said, Teagan, Lane Kiffin is obviously the hot commodity right now in the coaching circles, and everyone's going after Lane Kiffin, just like everyone was going after Cignetti from Indiana a couple of weeks ago before he signed that extension. Some of these teams are going to be set there, whether Kiffin decides to go to LSU or go to Florida or whether he decides to stay at Ole Miss. Some of these teams are going to be sitting here not getting one of these big coaching names, and they're going to have to sit there and wonder, why did we make this move? Was it right to fire James Franklin? Was it right to fire Brian Kelly? In LSU's case, I think Kelly was just a poor fit institutionally and culture-wise from the time he got there. James Franklin was a guy who was winning 9-10 games and going to the playoff last year. And, yeah, he came up short and winning the big one. But there was going to come a point where maybe Michigan was down and maybe Ohio State was down, and maybe that would have been his time to pull through and make a run in the playoff and get to the national title game. But they were just tired of waiting. So the interesting thing for Penn State is going to be, who are they going to bring in? And is it going to be the guy that can bring him to that next step? The name Matt Rule keeps coming up. And, we've seen Matt Rule do some good things, but I'm not sure if he's a guy that's going to push the team to the next level of winning a national championship. We've got more to come here on Palmetto Sports Daily right after this.
Welcome back to Palmetto Sports Daily. Just a final thing on Dabo Swinney saying he's not worried about his potential future at Clemson on the college coaching carousel that's been going on with all the chaos. He said he's not worried. He trusts in God's plan, and also he's just going to do his best every single day. So that's what he says, and we'll see how that pans out the rest of the season. But as far as some other big national news right here on Fox, hopefully you've been following along with the World Series. Baseball's biggest test has been crazy back and forth between the Toronto Blue Jays winning Game 1 in a resounding, record-setting 9-run sixth inning, the third most runs scored in a World Series ever. The Dodgers come back to win Game 2, and last night, if you stayed up, you still might be getting some sleepy sand out of your eyes for the 18-inning crazy fiasco that was Game 3 that had a former Atlanta Brave World Series champion, Freddie Freeman, hitting a walk-off home run, and maybe he's making a case for a World Series MVP, although Shohei Ohtani is definitely making his own case and pitching tonight in Game 4. There you see Freddie right there. And just crazy, guys. I mean, this game, I actually took a 2-hour nap between the 11th inning when it was tied 5-5. Then I woke up and I heard Joe Davis, the Fox play-by-play announcer, say, and the longest World Series game, it's tied for the longest World Series game ever, 18 innings. And I woke up and I said, oh my gosh, what time is it? And it was like 2:30 in the morning. I think this game was like 6.5 hours. So just insane. But the little engine that could, the Toronto Blue Jays running out of a little steam, and Freddie Freeman hitting that home run. Kevin, I know you have kids at home. Was it possible for you to stay up and watch this, or how did you experience the game?
No, I was pretty much like you, Carmine. I think I made it to about the 11th inning and passed out on my couch for a little while and then woke up a couple hours later. I think it was a little past 3 a.m. and noticed the game was still going on. And I just figured they were replaying the game. I didn't see the score or anything at that point, so I just rolled over and went back to sleep and realized when I woke up at 6:30 this morning that the game had just ended like 2 hours ago at that point. So crazy game. I think my favorite anomaly from this game, though, is I found on Twitter that this was the second time that a World Series game has gone to 18 innings. The first time I watched that one completely was 2018 when the Red Sox played the Dodgers. Country music star Brad Paisley sang the national anthem for both of those games, and he sung the national anthem at two other World Series games as well, both of those going to extra innings as well, Teagan.
Wow.
Yeah, I thought that was a cool stat. So next time Brad Paisley sings at a World Series game, bring your coffee. Just be ready. I think that's the catalyst there. But yeah, no, I did not make it. I went to bed at about midnight, saw it was still going on, said I'll watch the highlights in the morning, Rick.
Yeah, well, I'm a night owl. I was watching Monday Night Football, and I had the World Series on my laptop. And so Monday night game is over. And the World Series is looking pretty good. It was tied at 5 in the 7th inning. So then I put all my attention on that. And so it gets to like 10th inning, 11th inning, 12th inning. And you got to stay with it because, this is going to be a legendary World Series classic. Oh, the defensive plays, the pitching, the drama. And for Freddie Freeman to hit another walk-off homer in the World Series, I guess he's the only player in baseball history to have multiple walk-off home runs in the World Series. So just a great game, and I'm looking forward to the rest of the series. Teagan?
Well, speaking of being part of a baseball game for a long time, Kevin Schnall. So he just signed an extension with Coastal Carolina. This was on October 15th. Everybody in Conway, celebrating. We've got Kevin Schnall here. He's going to lead us to another World Series just like they did last year. And then all of a sudden, last week, end of the week on Friday, there's this just rumor that erupts on Twitter saying that Kevin Schnall is interviewing for the head coaching role at Tennessee. And, of course, this came as a really big shock because of that extension. So there were rumors. Basically just a confirmation that he was staying at Coastal, but kind of a little shocker there for people at Coastal. We're not entirely sure what his contract consists of still, but it keeps him in Coastal until 2030. I think his passion for this school is really unmatched. I'm sure that if Tennessee was theoretically going to offer him the job, it would have been a big price tag, but I think for Schnall, he just loves it here. He played here in college. Of course, he's been here forever. He learned under Gary Gilmore. So, Kevin, I didn't really expect him to go to Tennessee when I heard the rumors, but I'm curious on your thoughts.
Well, to me, what this says is that Kevin Schnall is, I don't think he's as committed to this Coastal program as some people might think he is. Because the way things kind of worked out was it looked like Schnall took his name out of the running for this Tennessee job. And then about an hour later, Tennessee names one of their assistant coaches as the new head coach. What that says to me is that they probably told Schnall, we're going with this other guy, but we're giving you the chance to kind of save face a little bit and say you're going to stay at Coastal. So, maybe I'm wrong, but it looks to me like, if nothing else, he's going to look around, and he's not as maybe committed to this Coastal program as we've thought in the past. That's just my opinion going forward. We've got more to talk about here on Palmetto Sports Daily. We'll be back right after this.
Welcome back to Palmetto Sports Daily. We've got some Thursday night football this week for Coastal Carolina. The Chants hosting Marshall at home. The first time they have been home in a while. I think they've had 2 home games, including this one in the last 47 days. So they're really excited to be at home. It should be a killer environment with a ton of people there for Halloween vibes and all of that. But Coastal Carolina coming off of a win at App State. They're 3-1 in the Sun Belt. They're doing better in the turnover battle than they did in those first non-conference games. They were minus 11 in those. They're at least in the positive here for this. But Marshall's going to present a bit of a problem, especially with their QB, Carlos Del Rio Wilson. Here's head coach Tim Beck talking about the matchup.
I think the biggest thing is the turnover margin. We're +3 in our 4 Sun Belt games. We were minus 11 in the beginning of the year. So when you're protecting the football and you're making good decisions, but your defense is also creating takeaways, you have more opportunities to score points. Marshall's very similar. They're +8. You know, that's I think the Old Dominion game they were +5 or 6 in the game. So when those things happen, you like the results. So it's going to come down to stopping the run. Both teams run the football very, very well. It's going to come down to turnover margin and special teams plays. Both special teams to the hidden yardage and field position is what this game's going to come down to. Two good football.
In terms of Coastal's guy at QB, Tim Beck said earlier today, Tad Hudson's still kind of questionable. He's a game time decision, even though he wasn't listed on the initial availability report for this week. Samari Collier, his exact quote, I believe, was, I guess you could say that about him starting. So Samari will probably be under center, but we'll have to see that matchup Thursday night at 7:30. We're going to take a quick break here on Palmetto Sports Daily. We'll be right back.
Welcome back to Palmetto Sports Daily. Now, Charleston Southern picked up their second straight win by getting a blocked field goal at the end of the game to get the victory over Eastern Illinois this past Saturday. This coming Saturday, they look for their third straight victory, which would be the first time they pull that off since 2019 as they go on the road to Southeast Missouri State. Gabe Gardenia talking earlier this afternoon about what the vibes are like going on this winning streak.
Well, I think they're definitely, their food tastes better in the calf. But I think, just from our mindset, we've really tried to refresh their minds and say, hey, these last 5 games are a new season, and they've done a good job of that. What I like with them right now is we feel like dissatisfied about how we played. They're joyful and glad to win last Saturday, but they feel like they got a lot left in the tank as far as playing better, energy.
Bucks face Southeast Missouri State this weekend. That's going to do it for Palmetto Sports Daily. We will see you back here tomorrow.